Hello, how are you? My name is Tutu. I'm making this video today to just kind of talk about my experiences after dealing with going through a hate crime for just being who I am and living my life. And it's pretty much the same before I went through my assault. It's just that now mentally it's just a little bit hard for me to feel safe when I go outside, when it's like dark or if I'm by myself and I'm like in a sketchy area, I feel like, or I just feel like I'm not safe. So I just kind of overthink my ventures when I'm exiting my home now. As far as just trusting people, I guess it's very hard for me to trust people. I've kind of just really been in my own like little bubble, outside of my support system that I have, and that has been very, very helpful towards me during this time. And I'm very, very thankful for them, and they know exactly who they are. Outside of them, I've honestly just been in my own little bubble, just home, trying to just mentally get myself reconnected with the real world, physically get myself, well and reconnected with the real world. Yeah. Since the whole hate crime, I actually have been home. I haven't been working at my last job, so I've it has affected my way of working, and so now I'm just slowly but surely getting back out there and applying for jobs and looking for new jobs. Something that is um, very stressful, on top of still mentally dealing with and still mentally processing the fact that I was assaulted for just being who I am.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrea with Karana Rising, and I have my colleague Tutu here, who is one of our advocacy lab associates at Karana Rising. And Karana Rising is an organization of survivors for survivors, working to lift up the voices and life experiences of survivors of human trafficking, sexual assault, and sexual exploitation. And I'm here today because on July 26th, my colleague and friend Tutu was the victim of a hate crime based on her gender expression. And while I was immediately furious and outraged and upset, the story really isn't about me. And so Tutu, you know, walk us through what happened that night and what you were doing and kind of what led up to it, just so people can get a bit of an understanding.
Hi everyone, I'm Tutu. So yeah, that night I was leaving. What was night morning? I was leaving. I was getting off work, and I was walking from my job site, and that's when I got assaulted for being trans, and yeah, it was very traumatic, very, very hard for me to deal with. It wasn't my first time dealing with a hate crime, but to this extent of actually like having to go to the
Right.
hospital and like I'm bleeding and I'm like literally having to fight for my life. That
Yeah.
was the first time for me, and so that was very, very hard for me to deal with.
Yeah, especially like you don't even see it coming, right? I mean, it's just like you're
Yeah,
minding your own business. And I think a lot of people don't realize how prevalent this type of crime is in the nation's capital where you are, but also, around the country. How prevalent do you think it is in the transgender community?
I think it happens a lot. I mean, I don't know, I don't have like data to to like give an exact number of how often it happens, but I feel like it happens very often. But I also sit back and say, just like as any other crime that goes on, how many undocumented hate crimes had occurred that have not been, brought to light or even brought to the law enforcement's attention.
Right.
in
So
which they
yeah.
don't even take it seriously half of the time.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, what do you think would make someone who's transgender reluctant to report the crime to the police?
Because we're held to a stereotype of where we're dramatic or we're lying or we're just trying to get attention, and so that right there alone will get someone a part of the trans community to not want to go and report something that happens to them.
And have you had friends who also identify as transgender also experience hate crimes?
Yes, I do.
And, from their experience and from your experience, what do you think law enforcement should do to take these crimes seriously?
One, actually do their job and investigate and write down. I feel like sometimes when you're telling the police like what happens, um, whether you're trans or just a part of the LGBT community, I feel like half of the time they're not even listening. Half of the time they're probably not even jotting down anything that you're saying, and they're just looking at you like you're crazy. So I feel like if they actually just listen and look at us as just humans, not male, female, trans, whatever, and just treat us like humans, I feel like it will be a better outcome when dealing with like hate crimes and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, I think, you're hitting on an interesting thing that I often think about, because people ask me, well, how can this happen to a survivor of trafficking? How can yet another terrible thing happen? Or why does stuff keep happening to this person? I explain it's like you have a safety net. And if you're a white man, your safety net is this big because you've got that much privilege. Now you're a woman, a white woman, a woman of color. Now you are a young man of color. If you're transgender, but basically that privilege starts to strip away and your safety net starts to get smaller and smaller. I mean, you have actually a medical background. You could be doing many other jobs, but because of COVID, because of what's going on, you are working your best to survive, and that job required you to be out late at night,
Yeah.
and like that put you at risk. And those things make sense. What were some of the impacts of the crime and the experience for you, physically, emotionally, professionally?
Emotionally, very, very scarred. Just very like not more so like cautious now of my surroundings, but just a little more like more so paranoia, just really second guessing everything. Like even just going downstairs to go check the mail, I'm just like, I wonder who's in my hallway. I wonder, you know what I mean? Like who's watching me. If I'm walking to the store, I'm just like extra cautious. So that's just a lot for me to deal with emotionally. Physically, just drained, tired, very fatigued, trying to get myself back to my regular normal. Professionally, I had to leave that job because I didn't feel safe, like, going back there and still working the same hours. And one, I don't know if that person who wants to talk to me lives in that area or if they're, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, yeah, it's affected me a lot. It's really taken a whole toll on me.
Yeah, and I mean that's very understandable. I mean, a lot of people don't think of this idea of hypervigilance, but for those of us who are survivors, you start to be paranoid about people's
Yeah.
intentions, about what's going on. It affects your sleep. It causes bad dreams. I mean, I joke, like, you can sneak up behind me and say boo, and I'm like, and I lose 2 pounds, and everybody's
Right.
like, ha ha ha. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually really stressful sometimes to live like that, to be in your head like that. Like, guy taps me on the shoulder to ask me what time it is, and I like, ah, like that's not normal.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we live. And I think that people should understand just like how serious this is. You sent me a video yesterday of another transgender, well, actually a group of transgender young women. Three, yeah. So tell us about that video, because I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more.
Okay, so I first saw the video on a singer that I actually had the opportunity to meet at an event that we actually both were at. And it was, I guess, her three friends. They were transgender. They were all together. Her and her three transgender friends. They were together waiting on an Uber in LA. And I don't know what happened before the video started being recorded or whatever. But so I don't know if there were like words exchanged or anything. But all I know is on video you can see these three transgender woman just getting attacked by a group of men, laughed at, robbed, just humiliated in the middle of the LA street. And it's just like, that's crazy to me. For one, the transgenders were with someone who is basically a celebrity. So the fact that someone can just come and attack them, they don't even care who they're with, makes me wonder, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you safe, like, anywhere? And I want to go to LA, but that kind of scared me a little bit, because I'm like, I don't know if that's how they treat people out there. Because that's not the first time I've heard stories of trans out in LA getting attacked or, you know, robbed or anything like that. So that's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think it's crazy in general that people are continuing to experience these hate crimes, but also in part that's because our culture allows it, right? Like, so we're talking about an incident that happened to you in DC, and around that same time-ish, this incident happened in LA. And, you know, I grew up in a smaller Texas town, and so forget it. And, you know, back then, I think it's better now, but it's the culture of like permissiveness. And so it's not just law enforcement. That's a big piece of it, but it's about other people not standing up and saying, like, this is a person next to me, instead of like them, like, you know, saying, okay, I'm cis, I'm female, I'm this and this and this. And so I'm othering, you know, everyone else, instead just letting people in. Like when you first joined our safe house, when I was running Fairgirls, I remember you told me you were transgender one night, and I was like, oh, I know. And you were like, you know, and you were like shocked that I hadn't, like, you know, that I was cool with you being in our house, whereas I was like, I don't get a cookie for that. Like that's normal. I'm being normal. I'm being a human. You're a human. That's it. What do you want for dinner? And I think that I want to see people taking away some of these othering languages and understand that, like, the physical violence that you experience hurts no matter what your background is. It impacted you, your job, your friends were concerned, and you're a real overcomer. And so that leads me kind of to my next question. Like, what are some things that are helping you heal and thrive daily through not only being, you know, a survivor of a hate crime, but a survivor of trafficking, and just, you know, one can look at this and say, this person's been through so much, but you constantly are pushing yourself to grow. What inspires that? What helps you?
Always just remembering like my childhood dreams and like and goals that I wanted to accomplish when I grew up. So just staying true to like that, and just staying true to like who I am as a person. Definitely a great support system. I definitely do have a great support system. Cooking, I definitely do love cooking. I definitely do.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna add that video of you making the smoothie at the end of this, because everybody needs to know how to make that smoothie.
Yes, I'm trying to convert to become full vegan, and so that's been a fun little journey that I'm going on right now. So that's been occupying a lot of my time.
Oh yeah, it's a whole new lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely is. But it's like, since I've been starting that journey, I've like been in a better mind space, physically and mentally. Just feel like I feel happier. I feel more motivated to like get up and like go after things that I want to get done and accomplish in life. So, in music, I definitely do a lot of music, and just like writing, binge watching a few of my favorite shows.
Oh yeah, what's your favorite show right now?
Okay, so it's not new. I know I'm gonna sound crazy because I'm a little late watching it, but American Horror Story, to me, that is the craziest show ever. And it's just, my friend told me about it, and I'm like, I don't know. And that show is crazy, but it just keeps me so in tune. It's like I turn it on and I don't see nothing else.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It gets you out of your head. Well, Tutu, thank you for joining me and sharing your experience so that people can start to understand how prevalent this is, how it impacts beautiful people like you, and that we all have to take part in believing survivors and taking this seriously. That's the only way we're going to get it done, because we certainly can't sit back and wait for the police to fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Tutu. I'm going to sign out now. Thank you so much. I
Awesome.
will talk
Thank
to
you
you
for
soon.
having me.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.